Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Transmissions with AJ. I'm here with my brother, Scott Reid. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, amazing, mate. I really wanted to obviously do this podcast again with yourself and have a really good chat about everything that we've been kind of witnessing and experiencing over the last few days and weeks really, and how we're kind of at this stage, let's call it, where we're literally being shown, the full stench of the theatre that we're in, and that there's lots of things around that. There's lots of politics still. There's lots of surface level BS. There's lots of it. And we spoke about earlier, like it's very much about keeping people in these loops now, isn't it? Like the people who are already awakened, keeping them in loops all the time so they stay surface level and they don't go through this kind of magical ascension process as to why they're here in the first place. It's almost like this capping them off. And there's a lot of influencers out there that are doing their job trying to do that. But that said, like all the stuff that keeps everyone at surface level has all been governed by the same thing, which is the head of the snake, which is the City of London, which is kind of what we wanted to discuss today. So for the benefit of the viewers and the listeners, mate, is it all right to just give a bit of a brief overview of like how you're feeling things at the minute, and how it's all kind of planning out?
Yeah, like you just said, I think there's a mass worldwide awakening, and they'll do anything they can to suppress that energy and suppress that awakening in a lot of people. At the moment, the truth is so blurred. Anything you see could be fake. A lot of it is fake. The narratives around the war in Iran, the continued conflict, and what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, and how Russia play into it. It's just constant manipulation, lies, and propaganda. And you've got the spiking fuel prices. Of course, the headless masses are running out, bulk buying fuel and panicking about that right now. And you mentioned the head of the snake, the City of London. What most people aren't aware of, or they don't want to even listen to it when they hear it, is that they orchestrate a lot of this. A lot of stuff in the Middle East they funded over the last 20 years to cause destabilization. And just recently, with the fuel prices, Lloyd's of London, so the biggest insurance broker, oldest insurance broker on the planet, they tried to capitalize on that by making a false fuel crisis, a false spike in fuel costs, by cancelling all of the war insurance on the boats that would pass through the strait. Donald Trump jumped in straight away, and they had a backup insurance framework in place for these carriers, which brought it back even cheaper than Lloyd's were offering it in the beginning. They were trying to hike it to like something like 20 times the cost, and it was completely orchestrated. And then the news goes out going, there's going to be this, there's going to be that. No boats can pass through Iran, are bombing boats and attacking boats that are passing through, which was completely all false. As we know, the Iran conflict, there's much more to it than people think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, surface level, people are screaming, "Go, oh, it's another war! It's another war!" But they're only saying it's another war because the news and mainstream media that people are still kind of plugged into, because they're feeding off the mainstream media narrative still. Do you know what I mean? And then it creates that reaction. So there's a lot of people out there saying it's a war. It's not a war. There's no ground troops that are going in. It's targets that have been taken out that are legitimate, are very much sort of strategic targets, but it's what's underneath them that's very important. I've expressed the magnitude of the overall mission in terms of this, reactivating the Stargate that's there, the sovereign Stargate 10, which is basically across that area of Iran and into Iraq, where Basra is. Hence why the Brits went to Basra in 2003. Again, the Brits through the City of London, the head of the snake, and there's just shitloads of CGI and AI and that's being shown. And people are still reacting to it. It's Iran.
They make that obvious as well, don't they?
Yeah.
With the CGI and AI, it's like with the Ukraine conflict, they were using footage from computer games at one point,
and Star Wars.
honestly like,
Yeah.
and they don't expect people to catch on. And when you touched on that about ground troops, obviously we've got lots of friends that are still serving military and ex-military, and a lot of those young men and women, especially the ones that have retired now, are waking up. A lot of the special forces within this country are waking up. But the reason I made that point is we're told we're fighting for the crown, or the young men and women that go to war for this country and serve are told they're fighting for the crown. They're all under the impression that that means the monarchy, the king, the queen, whoever the sovereign is. It's not the case. The crown represents the table of 13. The crown represents the city of London. We're going to war for the city, fighting for bankers, and it was satanic, evil bankers at that. Yeah. So it's words.
And
play on our words.
Well, yeah, exactly. That I was literally about to say, play on words. So when you are on tour, whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, stuff like that, you even like you're there in a banker's war, basically being kept busy, right? And every war creates mass immigration. Every war creates lots of dispelled women and children to well, I'll say concentration camps, might as well be refugee camps where they become a trafficker's dream.
I do, but then they're funneled into. They've been funneled into Europe through mass migration, which the mass replacement theory isn't a theory; it's a fact. And look what they've done to Europe. You know, it's a danger of losing its identity, culture, and heritage forever. And that does need to be pushed back on. You know, and it's completely funded. George Soros, etc., and a lot of foundations fund and completely organize and orchestrate all of this migration. You can't solve it in the way they're doing it, and especially the way that there's been an active. It seems to be that it's been not hidden very well, but to you and I, but to a lot of people, they're just, oh, it's just the way of the world. Oh, these people are fleeing war-torn countries and persecution. But it's completely planned. Like that, it's the systematic destruction of Europe, but specifically the UK as well. We've no energy independence. We don't produce anything anymore. We have a service industry, not an economy. We're a third world nation outside of the city of London.
Absolutely. And going back to the orchestration of like mass migration, I've literally saw it with my own eyes. What sort of like 2011 to 2012, after not long coming back from Afghanistan, like where we lived in Germany, they were having like mass migrants were being moved into old military quarters in Germany then from the Syria war, which was obviously carried out by attacks by ISIS. ISIS was created by Israel and the British monarchy and stuff like that for this reason. Fully funded, and they went around obviously creating havoc and trained. Yeah, absolutely. They went around causing havoc, obviously creating this mass migration of people fleeing the country. So Europe would open its borders, and they flooded all the way through Europe over a decade or so. And now we're in the position we're in, and Denmark and Sweden are the rape capitals of the whole of Europe. What once was the pride and the Nordic power of the magnetic north is again been, the whole culture has been destroyed.
This where it goes deep. It's diluting those bloodlines. And I think people underestimate how pivotal the UK is, especially Scotland, but the UK is with regards to those bloodlines, that heritage, and the knowledge that's carried within those, and that it's a pure warrior spirit. And they want it suppressed. It's a bit like with suppressing masculinity. We'll touch on it later because I want to kind of bring up that new documentary by Louis Theroux, because it's been thrown out there, that the manosphere.
I'll tell you what you're saying, bro. But they're talking on the warrior spirit and the this country in particular, the UK and Scotland. We've got such deep lineages here, like from Celts to Vikings to Normans to Druids. Like we've got like so much here. We know the power of this land. We know that the real history of the Bible is based on the British Isles, and so flooding this island and trying to turn it into a human farm as much as possible by poisoning the native people as much as possible by bringing in this mass immigration, who then set up businesses which all poison the native people, keeps the native people fattened and dumbed down, and basically like controlled through the mind, and fear programs and all the rest of it, right? Whilst the culture's then chipped away at as a completely different ideologies are brought into this country, so that the native people do not reconnect with that, that aspect of themselves, that warrior spirit, and all those lineages within them.
Well, I think this is kind of, it is the final stage in a war that's been going on for a very long time. I mean, there's been some massive societal resets, complete resets over the last couple of 100 years.
Yeah.
And how deep they go, obviously the nearest ones to us are World War One and World War Two. World War One and Two, the complete destruction of all Tartarian architecture and the ancient world. It makes it easier for them to manipulate and lie to us about history. You know, there are a few countries in Africa where their calendar is completely different. They're in like the 1600s or something.
Yeah.
You know, apparently there could potentially have been almost 1,000 years added to the timeline. The Roman Empire, when you look at the Great Northern Roman Empire in Germany, it didn't end till the 1600s. So that they completely lie to us about a lot. And this goes, well, where you mentioned, you know, we're talking about Scotland and its heritage, and you mentioned that a lot of the stories of the Bible could have been based around here. This goes back to the false suppression of what true religion and true spirituality is. You know, all of the modern books, all of the monotheistic religions, we're really praying to an energy and a force that is not what people think God is. You know, that you need to go back to Gnostic Jesus, to the Dead Sea Scrolls, as we discussed before, that were discovered in Nag Hammadi in 1945. And you've got all the Gospels that terrified the church that were hidden, that teach that it's way bigger than that. You know, when people pray to God the way they do, they're not accepting that they are one with the divine oneness, everything, the universe. It's called the monad, and we have a divine spark within us that, if we remember we're part of that, it releases us from all of this turmoil, all of this slavery, and you start to see, feel, sense, perceive a lot more, and you see everything around you as, I don't like the word simulation, but it kind of is. It's a trap that we're caught in to keep us in a cycle, a cycle of pain, a cycle of fear, you know, constant worry about bills or whatever it may be, and they feed off that energy.
Yeah.
You know, people really do need, especially people that are devoutly religious. You're reading a book that was been heavily manipulated by the Roman Empire, and the Catholic Church, and not just the Catholic Church, but that Bible and anyone that follows it at a high level within the church is terrified of the Ethiopian Bible. They're terrified of the Dead Sea Scrolls because they release you from needing any organization, any church. You know, you don't pray to a vengeful God. That's not God.
Yeah.
So all of this is hidden from us, which doesn't allow us to unlock those inner gifts.
100%. It's about closing the heart, isn't it? You know, something I've been showing people with our line of work for quite some time now, especially amongst the male population, and especially amongst male populations here in the UK. You know, getting guys just constantly feeling like they need to go to work every day, they're not good enough. The whole toxic masculinity thing, which you mentioned, but the you know, and keeping guys hooked on sport. So, but then, you know, the sport's great, but like when you're hooked on sport, you're then marketed day in, day out, whether it's through like the Sky Sports News or Talk Sports and everything else like that. And it's just literally keeps the mind in those lower vibrations and never about themselves. You know what I mean? It's always like, and then what do people do at work? They talk about celebrities, they talk about footballers, they talk about everybody else except for themselves. And, you know, their goals, their aspirations, you know, like something they're going through. Do you know what I mean? It's just like everything's about external, and you know, in a way, sport has become a religion to some people in many ways.
It's bread and games, isn't it? Yeah, a lot of the men that would consider themselves the pinnacle of masculine expression. They're the polar opposite. They didn't say anything through the shamdemic. They won't stand up against anything that pushes back against their precious little bubble that gives them security. They're really not willing to look into the abyss and have it stare back. You know, as we know, that we were alone as a minority for a very long time, pushing back against all of this shit that's going on. And the problem is that the chess pieces start to move into place. Everything, you know, you can see the board in front of you 5-6 moves ahead, and we're very near checkmate now. That's why there's all this chaos in
100%.
the world.
Yeah, because well, I mean, everything needs to be seen, right? It needs to be exposed for people to go, right, I get it now, right, I get it, and for things to actually click. So you know, when the light penetrates anything, right, it pushes that darkness through, so it exposes the last of it, which is literally what's happening right now. You know, whether that's governments, whether it's individuals in Hollywood, politics, wherever it may, even previous like influencers you may have followed, who thought were of the light, have actually been spreading quite a bit of, or sharing disinformation, or keeping large volumes of people in loops of information and look over here, look over here, look over here, sort of thing. You know, all being seen for their roles in it all. But you know, we've got to remember as well that we create it all too. So like, you know, we've created all the darkness to be there as that polarity, you know, as we go through all the lessons on this.
We allow it to exist, though, don't we?
Yeah, we allow it, give it consent.
Yeah, that's it. We give it consent. We don't tell it, or we don't. As that darkness comes in, we don't see it for what it is and just let it pass through and leave. People embrace it and get caught up in it, and then as within, so without. You know, you manifest that darkness into the world.
Yeah,
because you're kind of constantly concentrating on all of this turmoil and chaos. When the best way to transition this point in time, if you're struggling to believe, can't really be this deep, that there can't really be it can't be this organized, it can't be this, it can't be that. You have to start from inside. You have to get those positive daily practices in place that allow you to get 1% better as you every day, get 1% closer to source, you know, to igniting that fire, that divine spark within you. And that comes from very simple things, you know, like just the basics, like you do every day now, you know, like making sure you get up at a sensible time or the same time every day, get physical movement and activity in, get so exercise in the morning, get sunlight on your face, you know, first thing in the morning with a walk as well, get a cold shower in, and then make sure you're getting that breath working in the morning. That all of these little things, and when you're doing that, just allow yourself to sit and center and just think, are these thoughts, is that me, or is that an extrinsic force pushing this negativity or whatever it is, or all of this pushing this atrocity propaganda at us? You know, you just let that flow through and just separate yourself from it, and that's when the magic truly happens. And that follows through into everyday life. We've all got to put bread on the table, so you're going to become a better servant to your community. You're going to be a stronger, fitter, more useful man that can serve the people around him like his family. You know, we've got to make sure we educate ourselves as well. Read books you're not supposed to. Watch podcasts you're not supposed to. You know, deep paths of inquiry.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And it's like, and one of the key things, you know, it's not even, it doesn't even need to be a spiritual thing. Like when you're giving your energy away from the minute you wake up in the morning, like before your feet even touch the floor, to other people or other things or other entities and other people's shit and problems, i.e., first thing you do is like pick your phone up and then just see what messages you've received before you've even got out of your bed and got into normal like sunlight and all that kind of stuff, or hydrated yourself, then that's how you start your day, right? And you know, we are a product of our habits, and it's small little changes. You know, like I get up pretty much very early every morning, and the first thing I want to do is hydrate and then meditate. That's it. Like before going like, oh, let's see who's messaged me about this or this or this or this or this, and then you'll find just that little bit of self self-care first thing on self literally fires up your cells for the rest of the day, you know, and other what you would have perceived as problems or things you may react to very, very quickly change.
It does that morning ritual, which is just about you. It's not about anyone else. It completely changes how you navigate your day, how you react to things, how you react to stressful situations. And it's like you said, you mentioned something there that made me think, you know, we're like antennas as well. So, you know, what you surround yourself with is what you're going to absorb. So you need to cut all the bullshit out of your life. You can't save everyone.
Yeah.
And as you become more awake and more connected to your inner self and become stronger, fitter, more connected with the land around you, more spiritually awake, you also become much more sensitive to those energies. You pick them up a lot more. You can sense things like you didn't before. So you do have to protect yourself, you know. You do need to know when to just let things flow through, let it pass, breathe and let it pass.
100%. It's and that's why everything's so chaotic at the minute. It's like it's a massive test for not just people's discernment, but the ability to just let it pass through and just like, yeah, whatever, next. You know, you focusing on your mission, because there's probably a lot of things going on in a lot of people's lives at the minute. You may feel that kind of there to throw you off, but again, it's all for you as well. You know, it's really important that people remember that like all of this is happening for us. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you know, like we hear the term "trust the plan" quite a lot. You know, absolutely trust the plan, because you freaking wrote it, my friends.
Yeah, I think a lot of us wrote it subconsciously as a culture for a long time, and a race as humanity. You know, by allowing ourselves to get manipulated.
Yep.
By allowing ourselves to be, well, we didn't allow ourselves to be, but the education system as well. You know, and then we then manifest that into reality. We allow this system to exist the way it is. You know, I don't know if we mentioned it last time, but it's really hard to get through to people. Slaves were freer than we are right now in a lot of senses, but we have the ability to free humanity for all eternity. You know, if you earn, say, £100, and just throwing some figures out there, but the tax bit is correct, you pay for, say, 30% in tax, so £30 is gone. And then you bought £70 worth of fuel. £49 of that is tax on the fuel. It's just, yeah, why are we doing it? Just as a collective, you turn around and say no. You know, we need to remove the consent for that for Westminster, which is completely corrupt in the party political system, to have any influence over our lives anymore.
Yep. The you know, just touching on what you were saying there, like in terms of the collective, you know, it's absolutely stonewall facts. Like everyone's experienced it by now. Everyone watching this is supposed to be watching this, like, and they would have experienced this. How the collective manifest things into reality. So it's one of our gifts. It's one of our standard gifts as human beings, right? We are creators. But we've been manipulated into reactors, right? And not understanding the ability that we do create everything. We create the good, we create the bad, we manifest viruses, like all this kind of stuff, right? So use COVID as an example. You know, that you would have been in areas where everyone would have been like, oh, has everyone got a test? Everyone got a test. Like this person's sick, this person. Like it's because that whole place is co-creating, co-manifesting that whole experience. And that's what I mean. So the dark side, let's call them, or the cabal, or whatever you want to, you know, call them, know that we as humans and as a populations manifest everything into fruition. So that's why everything's so fear-based, is so that you know, the collective manifest that fear. They manifest that virus. They manifest that pandemic, and it keeps going and going and going, because so we end up programming ourselves through our own fear.
But they're master manipulators and experts in human psychology. They know the buttons to push through human evolution. You know, we're tribal animals, and a very small percentage of the population doesn't get dragged into the brainwashing, but it's very, very small, you know. And you would have always within a tribe had outliers that were willing to be slightly separate from the tribe and didn't need that validation of being part of that group to make themselves whole. And I think it's those very few number of people, although it's quite, you know, the percentage is growing across the world, that we're just looking around at that. You could walk into that energy, like you said, that collective of mass manipulation and brainwashing, and you wouldn't succumb to it. You would be looking around, going, right, there's 100 of you that all think this, and you're all looking at me because I have a different perspective. But it's not that I believe this. I know that I'm right. I know. I can see what's going on. There's a difference, and it's not saying you're more intelligent than that. You have an inner gnosis, is the Greek term, and the gnosis is not just you know it in here. You feel it viscerally in your body, and I can't explain why I had those feelings. I can't explain why a veil never dropped in front of my eyes, but anyone around me will tell you it never did. And I'm not afraid to voice my opinion. So I was voicing my opinion a lot from the, you know, we spoke in the early days as well, but I was, it becomes spiritually torturing at times.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good term for it, spiritually torturing. But I think as well, part, you know, hand in hand with like the collective being manipulated at an individual level, it's like the biggest truth of them all, right, is actually who you are, like your mission, etc., right? And that, so all the surface level stuff, all the quote unquote conspiracies, the 9/11s, the wars, the history lies, like all that kind of stuff, right? That's part of the journey, and part everyone's a decoder, really. It's just that we do it in different ways, like you know, to teach us how we need to learn in this lifetime, right? So like it was to slow us down from all of that as well, that journey, you know, like going through the ability to have that deep gnosis, so you just complied instead. Like that's what you know, we're seeing a lot more of now, is as people sort of awaken to their, it's not just to the like knowing that everything's been thrown in front of them or tabloids and stuff is all BS. Is actually like who they actually are, like how powerful they are, and that they've survived this long, no matter what age they are, you know, from multi-trillion-dollar marketing campaigns and poisoning.
Not just that, military level psyops. The 77th Brigade, as you know, ran all psychological operations during COVID in the UK. They were advising SAGE. The nudge unit was advised by the 77th Brigade.
Well, they had 18 out of 20 scientists were behavioural scientists, weren't they?
Yeah, but then you've got our military psyops unit, and all I can say is they're evil geniuses. They're only there for a reason. Orchestrating and manipulating and performing carrying out psychological warfare on its own populace. Is that not treason?
Yeah. Well, it's been going on a lot longer than we've been alive as well. You know, that's what Portland Down's for.
Yeah, a lot of the experiments that went on there are supposed to be quite bad as well. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I worked there after I left the military, and I saw with my own eyes that like Novichok was made there. So again, you know, the whole thing to kick off that Russian propaganda. Again, it's all targeted because they wanted to start.
We were something like 15 years ahead on chem warfare, weren't we, than the rest of the world? So when everyone, it was a long time ago when I was a lot younger, everyone was supposed to have done a declaration when they declared what level they are up to with their weapons capabilities, whether that be nuclear, chemical warfare, etc., etc. And we all know that chemical warfare was supposed to have been banned, boycotted, but clearly it never stopped, did it? You know, and we were XYZ ahead of everyone else, so we only had to declare up to the highest level anyone else had, but we were way ahead of them.
Yeah, 100%.
The roots of the British Empire run deep. We didn't manage to control a huge portion of the planet from a tiny little island fortress for nothing. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I think people like forget that. It's in like how did this tiny little island control so much around the world? You know, it's monumental. And we probably don't even know half of it, but people like quickly forget as well. And it's that's just life. Is that like as much as they have colonized a lot of places and sovereignty is supposedly returned to a lot of these places, they haven't, because they've just been left in disarray, right? You know, I've been in Sierra Leone, seeing what the British Crown's actually left them with, and you know, they're not appreciative of it. You know, there's the beautiful people there just get used as scapegoats. You know, if the CDC's not there trying to push their next pharmaceutical on all the people and use them as guinea pigs, like they did with remdesivir, before they murdered and butchered people in hospitals and that during COVID. You know, they're creating booming landslides to like sell the land off, or you know, about taking Ebola there and poisoning people. You know what I mean? It's just that people kind of forget that situation as well, and that's all again all down to the head of snake and the crown.
Well, absolutely. And it needs, the head of the snake needs to come off. I think we're getting closer to that point now. Obviously, if the masses allow them to, they will try and pivot into a CBDC and dissolve all cash assets that people have, and people won't get the equivalent of the money they've got in the bank. It will then get to the point that currency can become manipulated to the point it expires. And that's even written into the plan, the central bank's plan. So there's no possibility of giving your kid pocket money, growing any generational wealth, you know, building prosperity and security for your family. I believe we're transitioning into an extremely different world to that. That's not where we're headed. But that's what they want. That's what they're trying to do. Or that's what they were trying to do. But they've lost, and they're panicking.
This
Otherwise,
is why
it wouldn't be accelerated like it is.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why I've been so vocal around people who've got large followings, like constantly blackpilling people, like saying like we're going into Agenda 2030, and like, you know, you mentioned the word Trump and they start ripping your head off, and that like, regardless of what I'm saying about Trump, it doesn't really matter because it's one person, it's one character in the grand scheme in all anybody's story. Where, like you're saying, we're going to a much brighter place because we're manifesting it, because that's what we have. We have that power, right? We are all fucking He-Man and She-Ra. You know what I mean? Like, we are literally the masters of our universe. And again, like, this is what these people who have these followings continue to do. They put out constant doom and gloom, trying to keep people in a low vibrational 3D rhetoric, going round and round in circles, and you know, multiple times a day, keeping people away from their own ascension journey and doing that inner work. You know, and the one thing these people all have in common, none of them practice anything that resembles doing inner work.
No, they don't at all. And I think ultimately what some of them say is true, but they maybe have the wrong outlook on it, on how you can transition through that. So no one is coming to save us, but it does all start from within as well. You know, we need to take responsibility for ourselves, for our own self-development. But that's multifaceted. You know, that's where you need to become open to the possibility that everything around us is a lie. And we do, like I said before, we do need to regain that inner fire, that inner spark, and it all starts from there. And have belief, like you said, we manifest stuff. So if we're manifesting Agenda 2030 is going to happen, we've lost this. That there's nobody out there with any influence or power that's fighting on the side of good, which from everything I can see, there absolutely is. Otherwise, we'd be long gone by now. We'd all be in FEMA camps. You know, you're manifesting that is exactly, it's what part of the 7 Hermetic principles from the Kybalion, like we've talked about. You know, as within, so without, as above, so below. You need to strongly believe that we are free and sovereign, and you need to respect this vessel that you're walking around this plane in. You know, you need to respect it for what it is, and you need to respect that spark inside you for what it is, and let that manifest out to the close people around you, your wider community. And it's important to speak, to speak your truth as well, to speak about it, to speak what you're feeling, because it's sound and resonance is where that manifestation grows. It brings it into reality. You can't just pray in silence.
Yeah,
you can't dispel the negative energy and negative thoughts in silence. It needs to be spoken out loud.
100%. And and it's been, I can account for that. Like the last few weeks, like everything I've been talking about and saying is literally happening. Because we're in that period now. Everyone watching and listening to this knows it and feels it. We're in this period, right? NPCs aren't watching these podcasts. You know what I mean? They're not for them. They're like, and one of the lads said in our community chat the other night, and we have every Monday, about the size of this audience doesn't need to be massive. But it's a quality audience. So like every comment that we receive is all in line with like what we're talking about, for example.
Yeah, but they're force multipliers as well, I suppose, aren't they?
100%.
You need to create force multipliers. You need to inspire the people around you in the next generation to want to follow in your footsteps, and that comes by leading by example. That comes by setting the standard. So then that higher standard becomes the norm.
Yeah,
that's what we have to do. And these people then go out and speak to another 10 people, and then those people speak to another 10 people, and it's like the ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. But we are the standards that we accept. So that's what I mean. If your standards are lazy when it even comes to actually doing research and feel into things rather than being told stuff or waiting for stuff, there's a huge gap as well. And I feel the people that tune into any of my social medias now are very much on this quite rapid path to understanding themselves, a lot deeper. And because they're doing that work, they're coming into alignment a lot more. So the synchronicities are going through the roof daily for people because you're coming into alignment. Your universe is showing you are absolutely on the right path. Keep going. You might receive a little soul slap, by some kind of experience, just giving you a little nudge that that's not quite that direction. Change course, switch fire slightly, over this way. And then the synchronicities ramp up again. And, a lot of people are experiencing that now because you are coming into alignment, as many people are. And that's why we're seeing everything on the surface. It's why we're seeing like reminiscences of what you would feel and see as endgame. And I'm sure the people watching and listening do resonate with that. And it's because you're not waiting for it. You're doing what's needed on yourself now. Even showing up, like listening to this podcast live, is a step forward, because there's lots we've discussed that resonates with the people, that activates things in people, and that's part of our role.
It is, and I think we know that there's many people watching this podcast now that are strong-willed and have enough inner fortitude to share the message as well, and to speak openly. And a lot of people have given me feedback recently, especially of all the stuff that came out about the Epstein files, and then you've got people that were completely closed off their whole lives, and then suddenly, obviously, that drops, and they're like, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And they were their exact words, like, "What am I actually supposed to do with this?" And then everything else they're looking at going, "Oh, hang on a minute, maybe they lied about that. Maybe they've lied about this. Or maybe there is an issue with the pharmaceuticals industry and the vaccine schedule, every single one of them, and modern medicine as a whole, because it's so heavily manipulated, suppressed, and guided in specific directions just for profit." They start to see all of these things, and it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? What are they supposed to do with it? You need to sit with it, don't you? You need to sit with it and let your ego like dissolve and slip to the side and go, right.
And that's easier said than done, because I mean, I'm sure everybody watching and listening again will be able to comment. It takes several dark nights of the soul to like, and lots of purging and soul slaps and emotions and commotions and everything else like that to feel and know that you're like in that sort of alignment phase. Do you know what I mean?
The closer you get to it as well, AJ, the more you get heavy resistance.
Yeah.
You get dark weeks of the soul. You get overwhelming, crushing energy pushing down on you.
Yeah.
And that's when you just need to stay true to yourself. You put one foot in front of the other. You maintain that daily discipline, and keep your structure in place. and you cling to that little piece of hope, where you know what you've got in here. That's what you have to do. It's the closer you get, you'll get dragged away, you'll come back, you'll get dragged away, you come back. You've just got to fight that resistance and know it for what it is, see it for what it is. When you can see it for what it is, and you go, right, I'm close, because this is happening, because that's happening. I mean, we get those moments now.
Yeah,
we both do.
100%. Yeah, daily. But I do find though, and I've mentioned it a few times recently, like within on our community chats as well, I do feel that actually a lot of the experiences that we're all having at the minute, they're very personal to, the synchronicities and stuff can be very personal to you and your mission. But we are being shown many times daily now, like opportunities, like to actually use our gifts rather than something happening to us. Actually, it's a scenario. It's like, right, you can use your gifts here. That could be just alchemizing energy in a certain place, or transmuting energy, whatever, whatever term you want to give it. It could be, literally your energy field will activate things in other people. It's because that's how powerful we are. So we're often getting put now in positions where we're actually, you're there to use your gifts. Your sat nav takes you off course totally bizarrely for no reason, but actually it's because you as a conduit of energy need to be on that particular route and activating those particular nodes, or could be soul retrieval because you've been there before, like all sorts, like, and it's actually knowing you're being put in these positions now to understand it. And then you'll start seeing, as many people have commented, like the angel numbers all of a sudden, like me and you were speaking on the phone earlier, and it was literally like every other car were like, I was talking stuff that required confirmation, and it was like S888, oh thank you, HHH, oh thanks again. And it's, do you know what I mean? Because you're on the right path and your universe is literally just giving you a little tickle to say they got your back, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all around us. It shares messages and it gives us information and teachings in the very strangest of ways sometimes. But they just drop in.
Yeah, but you see angel numbers, and you suddenly things like postcodes that are relevant to you, or your family, that are actually, you just know are codes for you. Like an old phone number is actually a code for something, because we're in a big game of, like you said earlier about simulation, like Grand Theft Auto / Zelda / friggin' Mario. You know what I mean? With a little bit of Truman Show thrown in there, and Hunger Games. So it's just like, yeah, but it's kind of like multi movies at your fingertips literally every day. But like, again, it all comes back because they're codes, and everything in a simulation is all programs, algorithms, and codes. So it's like, do you see the codes? The codes are there for you.
Yeah.
And once we flip the script on so many things, we can see that we've put it all there for us. You know what I mean? Even the things that like were said to us during COVID, or just not long after COVID, like Klaus Schwab and that, you'll own nothing and be happy. We're like, good, because we don't need to own anything actually in this realm, and we can be very happy. And the whole build back better, yes, because we absolutely need to build back better, because the matrix is completely crumbled and taking the world with it. We need to build back better in terms of the new earth, right?
Well, 100%. They've disabled people from being functional human beings that can sustain their own lives. If we all knew how to produce our own food, hunt and butcher an animal, grow vegetables, manage the land, build, maintain, fix stuff, everyone, male or female, should come out of whatever education system having the ability to be a fully self-sustaining, functional human being. But that's been stripped for us. So we're like rats in a cage. Most of us, I've stepped out of that a lot.
Yeah.
As much as I possibly can. There's still ways to go, although I've always been very practical. Most people are like babies. They couldn't survive if the lights went out for more than a couple of days.
If that.
Before they started eating each other, and it's we have had that stripped from us on purpose, because it makes a weaker society.
Mm.
You know, that's why the Scots and the Irish that emigrated to the States, you know, survived because they were tough people. They knew how to survive on the land. They knew how to protect themselves. They knew how to build. They knew how to stay in life. And we need to bring that back. So when people talk about, you know, the toxic masculinity and bringing back and the divine feminine and this and that and the other, people get a misconception about it. You know, the divine feminine and the divine masculine and reclaiming true masculinity is about all the things I just spoke about. It's not about any of this bravado and bullshit that we spoke on the manosphere, that Louis Theroux's new documentary. That was done on purpose. You know, if you gave a balance and you showed the prime examples and beacons of strong men that are out there guiding society, they're the polar opposite of that.
Yeah.
You know, they teach respect, they teach love, they teach benevolence, that they teach to be kind, but also be strong and capable of violence as well. And be in control of it. That's where it comes to educating yourselves, learning philosophy, embracing stoicism and Eastern teachings as well. You know, to balance that. And the feminine role as well. You know, masculine and feminine have their roles within a community, a tribe, and trying to make us think any different, and where they're brainwashed into people into thinking different, has taken away that family unity and ability to self-sustain. It's made people weak on purpose because we don't work as a team anymore. We don't understand our roles within society.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, mate. And you know, people just lock themselves away in the house, don't they? Just that.
Yep. And they live life vicariously through Netflix.
Yeah, I'm staying in my box after being in a box all day to go and sit and watch a box, you know. And it's a box to box lifestyle that's been created on purpose. Again, split up the wider family, split up the communities, get people into being used to working from home, you know, stepping outside for a little walk at lunchtime, going back in, literally like surrounded by EMF all day, easily programmed, while being marketed from every single device and screen you can think of that's in the household, like the whole family.
Well, it is, isn't it? Modern technology is a great thing, but the saturation of the environment around us, the ether around us, with electromagnetic interference, when inherently we're giant antennas, is nothing but negative. You know, we wouldn't be talking now. We wouldn't have been given this opportunity to pivot humanity onto a completely different course, do a course correct this bullshit. We wouldn't have been given that ability without the technology, without Wi-Fi, without 5G, without a lot of the stuff that is actually inherently damaging to us and is suppressing the innate natural abilities we have that are way beyond what we even know, mate. You know, there is no mystery to how they built the pyramids. They're way older than people think, but that was through sound resonance.
Yeah. Same as cathedrals and that, you know. It's like, you know, we talked about looking after the human body and stuff like that, but like the things that
the bells are healing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but like the things people are experiencing now and the upgrades people are experiencing in the body is literally taking you back to that original crystalline template, which I guarantee you the human population of the world was of that crystalline template when the cathedrals were built and things like that, because they would have all been masters at what they do and then some, with far better materials, actually better technology, using sound and resonance, all that kind of stuff.
A silicon-based life form rather than
100%.
Yeah, and with the where you can see the giant structures where big trees were cut down, very big fucking trees, you know. It was rather than carbon based, it was supposed to have been a silicon based planet, wasn't it?
Yes, and that's what we're returning to, like, and you know, as the higher selves embodying the human body, you know, so it's actually like it's kind of like a 5D consciousness in a third dimensional body, if that makes sense. But to experience, you know, when people talk about 3D to 5D and all this kind of stuff, and You know, like none of us can like sit here and go like it's this is and this, right? Because we're all in this journey together, just, you know, very much in our own ways. But the goal is collectively to go through obviously an awakening process based on your particular journey, but as a collective, raise the frequency of the planet, and therefore the ascension of Gaia means
Yeah,
that
and
we ascend.
exactly. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head there as well. I think the first step in that is accepting that we're part of one whole.
Mm,
We're all part of the same thing, you know. Um, and the more we manifest that energy, the more it infects others, and then
hmm
permeates society and the group around you. I mean, one of the easiest explanations is like mass prayer, or an event where there's a huge amount of people that have a common goal in place, but that's a good energy there, a vibrant, loving
mm,
energy. You know, like you said, that connects with Mother Earth, connects with Gaia,
mm,
connects with the universe uh, uh, as a whole.
mm.
That energy is palpable. You can feel it. No one can deny it. Even a football stadium, slightly different energy, but energy and vibration is powerful.
Yeah,
You
100%.
know, and we are part of the same thing. We are part of the collective. We are part we actually are part of the Paloma. Now, people need to look that up, what the Paloma is, but that is the everything.
Mm.
That's where all consciousness is, and that's where we should be looking to transcend to return home, because we've never really left it.
Mm. Exactly. Exactly. And, you know, and this is why we were saying what an amazing time to be alive, because it absolutely is. Because, you know, the way I see it, it's actually been quite a bit of a lottery to experience all of this, really, um, and come out the other side on the winning side, you know?
Yeah, and if you carry this consciousness into the afterlife, and then you have to go through the soul trap and come back, or you have the choice.
Mm.
Could you come back one more time to fight this final battle, to reach down and pull people over the hill?
Yeah.
Would you
But
have done it?
do you know what? If I got told, you know, you will come back again, I'd come back as I'd come back as a, a pigeon. And I'd say this time I'm just going to I'm just going to mark everyone who's a wrong un, and I'll just go around the city of London just shitting on people.
A giant pigeon.
Yeah, that's what I do. It's so much easier, isn't it? Like nothing else to worry about. I would have to go like I've got to do a pigeon podcast, or you know what I mean?
You
It
could
literally
come back as a pterodactyl and just drop giant shits on the city of London. That would work better, wouldn't it?
oh, come back as a genuine dragon and just literally do
Yeah,
massive
there you go.
dragon turds on all the politicians and all the pedos.
Yeah, what was that film with Reign of Fire with Matthew
Mm.
McConaughey in it? Yeah, Christian Bale as well. Yeah, London got quite fucked up in that. A dragon would do a good job on the city.
Yeah,
But
absolutely,
as we
man.
know, like with the dragon thing as well, people don't like to hear it, but I think they discovered dinosaurs a bit late on, really, if you ask my fucking opinion.
Mm.
And the fact is, dragons are real, dinosaurs are bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I was showing people recently they've got dragons' heads over the arches of Lincoln Cathedral, and there's quite a few depictions of dragons like in throughout the building, because I spend a lot of time there, as you know, and like, I'm always seeing new things all the time. Um, yeah, I definitely should get a job as a guide there. Um, but yeah, it's there's evidence of them everywhere. Do you know what I mean? So, and you know, we know that the dragon lines, or you know, the Viking lines is what the Vikings actually traversed off, and sailed on. You know, the energetic lines of the water. You know, just like the planes do in the sky, as above, so below. Um, you know,
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to the they were that far north to a reason. They were very close to the vortex.
mm,
Yeah, so the true North Pole, the tree of
mm.
life. I think those people were way more than we're taught.
Oh, 100%.
We're made to think that they were these savage, murdering, sort of. marauding plunderers that went over, would occupy places, kill everyone, enslave everyone, etc., etc. I think the more you dig into it and look into it, they had that strength in them, but that's not what that base of people were.
No.
You know, they fought for some of the most righteous causes across the planet
100%.
at that point in time as well. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going. I think it was might have been down in Constantinople, but it was before it was Constantinople. It was Byzantium, wasn't it? One of the kings there had a full his personal bodyguard were all Vikings, and they would rotate in and out to serve that monarchy.
We see it in Vikings Valhalla. They show you that in the series that they had basically his two ICs or generals of his like guard were Vikings.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know,
that blood runs deep throughout the British Isles.
100%, mate. 100%. I mean, like I said, all the places I've been on the East Coast, they've got thick Viking bloodlines, have all got wind farms off the coast. So it totally messes up all the streamlines in the water, pumps a negative frequency over onto the land to the people. And like they've all the towns have been battered, like Redcar, like Newcastle has been a template that's becoming very similar to everywhere else. Obviously, Grimsby, you know, founded by Grim, you know, like what's happened there, and it's just you can see it, like Norfolk.
Well, obviously, this far northeast, mate. I mean, there's a couple of the islands consider themselves more Norse than they do Scottish. Obviously, heavily populated by Scandinavians along the northeast of Scotland. The Picts as well. There's a lot of mystery around that race of people that suddenly just disappeared. What were their true origins? That they were certainly very formidable, and they certainly had a connection to Gaia, to Mother Nature, the land, the water, the stone around them, and were capable of what we would perceive as magic as well. You know,
100%.
You see, there's the bones run deep on this island, and you've got all the Grail myths come back here. So the Arthurian, the Arthurian legends as well. That they're all on this island. You know.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. It's yeah, for me, obviously the Vikings is a big part of, well, me really. I've been obsessed with Vikings since I was a kid, obviously for a reason. Ended up in Grimsby for a reason, and just my digging deep into it all and what resonates. You know what I mean? It feels real true here, and stuff that's just become stronger and stronger and stronger. You know, I absolutely have no doubt that the Nordics were very much fifth dimensional beings, and there's a lot of Nordic beings in and around the magnetic north. Hence why the mass population immigration happened the way it did and flooded Norway, Sweden, and Denmark with a completely false, the opposite ideologies, and that to keep that frequency low, and then basically try just discombobulate the whole of the region. Do you know what I mean? Iceland as well. And then obviously the UK, you know, all of it, all that whole, and Russia, you know, that whole strip all the way across. I've shown people a lot of videos about why they target Russia, why they've populated Scandinavia with a completely different ideology, as well as the UK, same as Canada. They've done all the same there across that magnetic north for a reason, you know, because of how powerful that reason is, and the entrances of where it leads to. But like I said, like Vikings didn't sail about in wooden long ships; they cut about in proper ships, and I guarantee you that's what's in Greenland, that's what's in Iceland, where the volcanoes are. That's what's in the North Sea, where they keep saying "drill, baby, drill." And you know, and they're located all around the North Sea and around to Russia and stuff like that. Russia is also the home to the biggest amount of shungite, which protects from EMFs and protects your biofield and stuff like that. Another reason why taking Russia is so important, because they can get rid of that very positive human resource. that's better for us than most things on the planet. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Well, I think Putin's got the right idea right now, and there's a lot of misconceptions about who that man is and what even Russia is. But the reality of Russia is very different to what we're showing.
100%, yeah.
They're a million miles ahead of us.
Yeah, they know it all. Like but there's some. But what I like about the situation from their perspective is they're just watching the West fucking blow themselves up. In essence, do you know what I mean? It's just can always put their feet back, and the country's running itself.
Well, they're watching the deaf giggle of a dying breed of satanic fucks, basically, and they're laughing. Putin's removed the Rothschilds banking system from Russia now as well. Vampire's ball is over. He'll openly call them out. If people were to watch what is actually said and what comes out of that country, and believe me, it's 100% closer to the truth than the shit we're fed. Their jaws would hit the floor. It takes everything up a notch. Like, forget the fucking Epstein files, or don't forget them. But what I'm trying to say is the reality of everything and how long it's been going on and the evil that's been perpetrated on us overshadows that by a millionfold.
100%, mate.
And that man will speak openly about it.
Yep. There's a reason why the British military, you're literally brainwashed the minute you get through the camp gates that Russia's the enemy, and Hollywood always make out that Russia's the enemy in like most war films, or Top Gun or Rocky or whatever.
But Russia were never the enemy. It was the Bolshevik insurgency that was the enemy that actually tore that country apart, which was a Christian country. It tore it apart.
Yep.
And we all know what ideologies they follow. So, it all started in the mid 1800s.
Yep.
From that perspective, from what we're seeing there, so we're taught Russia's the enemy, but communism wasn't a Russian ideology. It was a Bolshevik ideology. It was a Zionist ideology.
100%. And whether it's Russia or whether it's the 1930s Germany, the West literally portray what's going on in their countries as completely negative and corrupt and like archaic and all the rest of it. But at the same time, block any media from their countries as well, which is what they've done with Russia for so long.
Yeah, and it was easier to do back in World War II, obviously, wasn't it? Because we didn't have the means of communication. But if people knew the truth of that timing. Of that point in history, it would make them physically sick. Winston Churchill was one of the biggest fucking war criminals that's ever lived.
100%.
He caused the bombing of London.
Yeah,
by bombing civilian targets over and over and over again.
He was given so many warnings as well.
Over and over and over again.
And like 7 times or something, he bombed Germany before.
Well, it was Berlin that many times.
And Dresden, wasn't
it? Dresden was towards the end of the war. The war was basically over, and we tested incendiary bombs and loads of really horrible shit, and melted a fucking civilian city.
Yeah, but I mean, Dresden was home to like very prolific ancient structures as well.
Yep. So add that into the mix. Like we say, it was a destruction of the old empire, and many parts of Germany did contain huge remnants of the great Northern Roman Empire, and that was all erased and hidden from us.
Yep.
The truth about history is very different to what we're taught, and it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Do you know what's interesting really is we went to Belvoir Castle at the weekend, me and Corin, and you get there and it doesn't look like a typical English castle at all. Actually, it's more like a chateau, like a French castle. But then it's got like Japanese gardens and all this kind of stuff. So it's quite multicultural. But then on the way up there, there's got all these little signs for you to read, and it said it was like 1815 or 1816 or something. The castle went through another transformation because it had been completely set on fire. And it says at a time when many castles were burning down. And then I was like, well, that's 1815 or 1816. 100 years later, you've got the First World War, right? Which was another mass attempted reset. I mean, like there's no logic ever. I've never ever understood it. How thousands of young men and boys would stand next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, and then just run over a trench into machine gun fire, hoping you get to the other side. You know, for
No,
king and country,
even though
it's
it was
horrendous.
lions led by sheep,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
even though
But
that's the
in terms of a
case,
ritual, do you know what I mean?
it was a complete sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word. I'm going to use this word. They can't be that retarded. They can't. You can't be that stupid and ignorant to think that's a good idea. Now, yes, in World War One, there were soldiers dressed in full army uniforms on horseback, carrying a machine gun and a lance. So it was a crossover from the old world. But you can't be that stupid to think that's. Why would you think you can still orchestrate a war like you're still wearing armor and riding horses, where you just charge at each other across an open expanse with landmines everywhere? But now everyone's got machine guns, ballistic weapons.
The game hasn't really changed. It's just actually the landscapes, isn't it? And the weaponry. That's actually it. It's the same concept. Like in terms of a battle or a war, it's very like
mass human sacrifice.
Yeah, and it's all kept quite central away from most populations, and then you see all like the video footage and stuff like fighting over burnt out trees and completely muddy plains everywhere, which are completely away from most cities now. So it's a theater has been created for war. And so what I said, theater of war. So then when like you go to Afghanistan or Iraq, stuff like that, they always refer to it as in theater, and that's what happens. It's like a theater is created every single time, and acts of war are carried out.
They are planned and fully funded as well, with a much larger agenda as the purpose behind it all. Like I said earlier, it runs deep, and I don't think we sometimes give them enough credit for how close they got to completely and utterly, removing every single bit of freedom and sovereignty that we've got.
Speaking of which, not saying pick a date or anything else like that, but do you think it'll be long before we find out the news that old Charlie boy is no longer with us?
I expect they'll pick a moment when they need to distract everyone from everything, won't they? Which could be coming very soon. Maybe some of the truth will come out about Iran, and then suddenly they drop that bomb, don't they? But that he's been gone a long time.
Yeah, obviously, clearly, what you see on the or anyone sees on TV,
London Bridge has fallen.
Yeah. I do. Well, funny enough, him and his actress, Mrs. is in North Wales. Funny enough, by Menai Bridge on the day after Easter Sunday.
Okay.
No, sorry, I've said it again. Or was it the 2nd of April or something like that? The day after, obviously, April Fool's Day and the start of the new tax year.
Yeah, don't you mean actually New Year's Day, which is only a few days?
New Year's Day. Yeah, New Year's Day. Wouldn't that be a good start to the new year if the whole financial system had flipped?
Completely. It's a reset day. So the 1st of April isn't part of the 28-day cycle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's a reset day, isn't it?
It was a reset day because everyone, it doesn't add up. Well, it does add up because you have a day. It's called it's a day for the birth of the sun.
Yes. Yeah. Well, who's to say what day is it tomorrow? It's Friday tomorrow. I mean, we've spoken out loud now. We've talked about manifestation and how the collective manifest things to happen. Now, I'm not wishing index on people. What I'm saying is the collective co-create stuff. So if the collective want to co-create New Earth, obviously you've got to get rid of blockages like the Antichrist and his mates. So the collective need to co-create that, which would therefore collapse the head of the snake which is the city of London, which would collapse all the financial systems and the globalist strongholds, or the last of them, if any, and would actually manifest a new, fair, quantum-based system, perhaps, and remove all these negative structures and constructs and contracts and webs of illusion that have been controlled by this head of the snake on humanity. I mean, we could all do that in a few days. Easy.
I think we could, if everyone was to collectively push the right energy out.
Yeah.
100%. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you say, oh, you know, how do we transition into that fairer, more open, more spiritually aware world where we do have a true gnosis, a true understanding of what we are, of what we're capable of, and what our place is throughout this life and the next one, or back with the collective consciousness. How do we transition there? And there has to be some sort of organization in place. So say, for instance, like you said, we transfer into a quantum financial system. We can't distrust everything. So at some point we do need to believe as a collective we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But that only comes if we dissolve the metaphorical and spiritual chains that have been put around us.
Mm-hmm.
We have to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we
100%.
have to accept that it isn't surface level, that we are part of a whole.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. There is no them and all the pronouns. We are absolutely all one. But I think, when the majority of people that are needed, are doing that inner work right now. There's people watching and listening to this that are like been smashing it out of the park. Been going through all the whole roller coaster of emotions and tears and breaking down of old ego patterns, old relationships. So there's a lot of like old personal stuff, like kind of falling at the wayside of people's lives at the minute, as well as understanding a deeper sense of reality, and as their gifts slowly come online. So it's it is hard to find that balance, on a day-to-day basis, and just go like, yeah, to just be able to sit there and go, it's all bullshit, don't need to put any attention to it whatsoever. Some people still are transitioning from that, having that foot in the 3D and all the systems, navigating through that into sort of higher densities and coming online more. It's not something that people are used to. Do you know what I mean? So it's that, but at the same time, we are in it together.
No, sometimes you don't need to completely separate the system. You just need to from the system. You need to recognize it for what it is.
Yeah.
And when you can recognize it what it is and see it for what it is, and it no longer has control over you, you can then manipulate it to be a force for good. So you can use these modern constructs and forms of entrapment and slavery that have been pushed upon us and play the game. Because please understand me, the people that have the true knowledge know how to play the game. They know how to manipulate the system. They know how to grow wealth, and they use that for malevolent causes and means. But there are a few people that turn it to a good cause, and that's the cheat code. You beat them at their own game, and then use that power and influence to positively influence and guide society to a better place. There's no possible reason. People think that technology and advancement means we remove ourselves from nature. We can still have that technological advancement and all that freedom and all that amazing innovation, but build it and make it harmonize with the world around us, with Mother Nature, with energy, with the energy that nurtures us, like 432 hertz, like the Schumann resonance. Technology can be used for good. It doesn't mean having to return to hunter gatherers.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean having to go back into a cave. There are building materials you use that there's ways that we can harmonize energy production and flow. As we know, at the moment, on surface level, the UK should be producing all of its own oil. We should be completely energy independent. But we also know that that technology isn't really needed if we had full access to the suppressed technologies and hidden gifts that are inherently ours. There's energy all around us. Cars can run on hydrogen and water, you know. We shouldn't be paying for electric. It's in the ether all around us.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, clean water is fully accessible, and food is abundant, and it's free. Everything we need to survive should be free, but instead we're paying for everything that used to be free.
Yeah, 100%. So well, same as calling stuff organic when it should just be food, right? But I mean, in the future, I really see us because we're in a simulation, right? And you said the word cheat codes. I think like as we progress in ourselves, like daily upgrades, whatever that may be, we'll very much have either have or the ability to replicate. So you wouldn't need, like all these fields sprayed with crops and all this kind of stuff, or people in so-called third world countries, sewing hundreds of t-shirts a day for a Western benefit and all this kind of stuff. Do you see what I mean? It totally negates all of that.
No, it does. And it's like what people say, what would people do? Well, you engage with the blessing you have to have been given this life and this existence and this physical body, this vessel, and your daily work becomes sustaining life for yourself and your family, supporting your community. Do you know what I mean? Educating the youngsters around you.
Well, it's teaching new earths, new leaders. That's what we need. That's what we're here for.
Inspiring people to take the same path.
Yeah. I think what you're saying, like to go back on what you were saying earlier, it's not about going back into a cave. It absolutely isn't. It's like, again, that's a story that we've been fed, is that we've evolved since that, right? When, like I just said, like, no, we haven't. We've devolved from higher dimensional beings into carbon-based two-strand DNA beings. That's what's happened. Now
I think we go back a few hundred years, but you could see the truth of that, especially like say the beginning of the 1800s, and everything started to get smashed. Everything was suppressed after the world fairs, but I think we were way more advanced than we're led to believe. We used to build it. We used to create architecture and that inspired people. You would look at it and it was a thing of beauty. Every single town and city should be a work of art, with buildings that last hundreds, if not thousands of years. And like we said before, there's a form of building called biophilic design, where you integrate nature into that. You build in harmony with the landscape around us. You don't need to destroy things. You can maintain natural habitats. You can maintain equilibrium and balance. Every single piece of waste that we produce can be used to create energy. And it can all be biodegradable. You don't need all of this shit. Like, this is where hemp was either sent by aliens or sent to us by the monad. But it can literally replace everything we think of that plastics do. It's paper, it's textiles, it's food, it's medicine, it's building materials. And it grows in 12 weeks. You don't need to cut down the world. Like every tree in the world. It's
well, look what Doc shows. Doc shows us in Back to the Future. Like, he started to put food waste in his flux capacitor. You know what I mean? It's just, and this is kind of like what it is. It is Back to the Future. It's actually, we need to take ourselves from this state that we've been kind of socially engineered into, and which is replicated in multiple countries around the world. It's like a very similar template, right? We can see it everywhere. Into those future technologies, but like it starts with actually reconnecting with the tech that's inside ourselves. You know what I mean? Because we actually are the tech. You know what I mean? We're here because we are the tech. We have these sacred keys and codes and DNA in blueprints are within us, right? And that coming online is when it really starts, and that's what a lot of people are experiencing at the moment. So what a lot of the DMs I'm getting is people are suddenly experiencing, like, what they would say, kind of very highly spiritual experiences, events, meditations, or sitting with plant medicines, whatever that is. And that's like ramping up massively. You know what I mean? So it's because the tech's coming online within us. And as the tech comes online more with us, we're actually become more sensitive to the stuff we're actually surrounded by. And, but again, we've got to flip that script and actually like really start tapping into this quantum self that's coming online, because we've always been quantum in our capabilities.
Yeah, and it's ancestral knowledge that's just resurfacing.
Mm.
You know, like we say, regaining unity with the collective,
Yeah.
accepting how amazing we are as human beings,
Mm.
and that
100%.
unlocks those inner abilities.
Yeah. Beyond comprehension. Absolutely beyond comprehension. Well, Scotty, mate, it's been a absolute masterclass having you back on again, bro. The message is always well heard. And I very much, like I said, we have a quality audience, you know. So whoever, you know, I don't need thousands of people tuning in, because thousands of people aren't ready to receive the message and the kind of stuff that we talk about. You know, we talk quite often about how we really see our roles kind of in line with consciousness, and how people, when the collective's kind of rising, we're kind of like helping that rise whilst having our own journeys. And you know, one of the big things that we've been talking about a lot recently is our male population, especially, and helping them rise. And um, we're going to run a men's retreat up in Scotland. So before we depart, did you want to just give a little bit of an overview over that, so people can get kind of excited about it?
Yeah, so I think the 10th to the 10th to the 12th. So up in Aberdeen,
July.
July. Sorry, yeah, of July.
Mhm.
Yeah, 10th to the 12th of July. We are going to be running a retreat up in Scotland, at my farm. So it will entail 2 nights, 3 days. We're going to go deep on a lot of subjects, breath work, physical movement, cold water exposure, um, um, fireside talks and integration. There will be some ceremony involved on one of the nights, where we hope to crack people fully open and get them fully connected to who they are.
Mm.
Shed the chains, really.
Yeah.
So it will be it's going to be one hell of a weekend.
100%.
We're still putting plans together now, aren't we? The energy up here is completely different. Where I live sits on the 33rd dragon line, doesn't it? The ley
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
So the energy is palpable up here.
Mm-hmm.
The mountains bring you alive. The water brings you alive. The people do. It's completely different.
Yeah.
It's completely
Yes.
different.
So for those men amongst you, or even those ladies who think this would be ideal for a fellow male compatriot of yours, do pass on the information. So 10th to the 12th of July. I'll be getting more official details and costs and everything else like that out across the website over the next week or so, when we've crossed a few T's and dotted a few I's. But inevitably, it's going to be for around about sort of what, 10 to 15
Yeah,
people
10 to
max.
15. And I think we spoke earlier about a collective as an energy, and I've experienced it on retreats that I've coached at, with close friends of mine as well. And like we said earlier, the energy is palpable when you're in a group,
Mm.
and the transformation that can take place. You can't really describe it unless you've been involved. But it takes people, the people you need to facilitate that need to have already cracked their shell open.
Hmm.
You know, be willing to share the deepest, darkest parts of themselves, and that's what this is about.
Yeah.
It'll be a structured 3 days, 2 nights, and we're going to go deep. We're
Mm.
going to go deep.
Mm. Turbo deep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. So if any of the guys out there watching or listening are interested, just reach out, and we'll add you to our list. But I will be getting like proper correspondence out over the next week or so, you know, so people really actually got things to actually look at. But it would be a proper structured program, including ceremonies and integration and everything else like that, up in Aberdeen.
We're going to do some work with the horses as well,
Yeah.
because they're hugely spiritual animals, and most people are very wary of them.
Mm.
Yeah, so we'll be doing some join up with horses.
Yeah, amazing, man. It's going to bring back a lot of remembrance of people and create like some massive activations as well. So it's not just a place where we're going to go, right, you come down, sit down, mate, pull up a sandbag, and then you just cry for 3 days, and it's nothing like that at all. This is, to really create some magic for the masculine circle that basically experiences.
Yeah, I think we want to unlock that warrior poet within people.
Yeah.
And if people want to prepare for that, I suppose, AJ, I urge everyone listening to this call to start. If you truly want to connect energetically to everything around you and become the best version of yourself, I would urge you all to start first, read the Kybalion. We've all discussed this before in our inner circle, haven't we, AJ?
Mm-hmm.
So dig into the Kybalion and study the 7 hermetic principles until you go blue in the face. Let them ingrain in your soul. But to the side of that, start looking into the Dead Sea Scrolls. Start looking into Gnosticism and what Jesus truly taught, Gnostic Jesus, and the message, and the Book of Sophia, the Gospel of Thomas, the Apocryphon of John. Start looking into those ancient teachings, because they drop the veil for you. They allow you to see everything clearly, and it's the complete opposite. It's got nothing to do with the church or Christianity. It is the opposite. And then you see how Hermes Trismegistus and the 7 Hermetic principles completely align with the Gnostic teachings of Jesus. And it's all about energy. And it's all about inherently having a knowing of what we truly have inside us. If you start doing that now, then you're going to get the most out of the retreat in July, and you'll get the most out of your life. A lot of things will become more clear.
Yeah, 100%, mate.
We've got everything we need in here, right in here.
Yeah, and I think by July, the lads will have a really, a lot, if they start the work, if they're not already starting that work on themselves, they'll have a much, much deeper understanding of the ancient aspects of themselves as well, and things like that. So, and that will just explode tenfold, on the actual retreat itself. But like I said, I'll get more correspondence out in the next few days. Obviously, this retreat is for men. It's something that we feel is very much needed, and what you have there, and with the horses and stuff like that. I do know that obviously retreats for ladies will be something that look at in the future. But in
October, AJ, there is obviously for the ex-military personnel.
Yeah.
In October, we've got one for men and women in Portugal.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the ladies amongst you who want to sit in more female circles and stuff like that, obviously my Corin runs Cambo medicine circles, which is a full half day kind of like retreat where it's beautiful for me to witness as well. These amazing goddesses that come to our home, and they all like bring these amazing energies with them, and they all get to experience my my awesome cooking as well. So it's worth it just for that trip. If ladies are feeling a bit more called to some women's circles and stuff like that, please check out all the work that Corin's doing here from my home in Lincoln. She's putting a lot of Cambo circles into the calendar at the minute, so do get in touch about that.
No, and I suppose if there's enough of our divine feminine sisters out there that would want to retreat, then let AJ know, because we're here obviously to help the collective grow as a whole. AJ and I have concentrated more on the masculine, but there are some huge shining lights out there for the feminine as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we want to help guide everyone. So if there's enough interest, just let us know and we can make it happen.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that, ladies and gents, thank you all for tuning in, taking the time out of your evening, wherever you are in the world, to come and hang out with us for the last hour and a half. It's always great conversation when myself and Scotty kind of get together. It flows quite nicely. We don't really have an itinerary of things to talk about, but I'm sure you've all taken away a lot of nuggets and at the very least things to think about and food for thought in the future. but like I said, if anyone's interested in talking more to us about our retreats, whether that be our medicine retreats in Portugal, or men's retreats up in Scotland, or military retreats in Portugal, or Cambo circles, or any of the other amazing services that we do put on for the collective, please do get in touch with us, missionconsciousness.com. And also, have a think about joining our actual community full time, and meeting people who are where you live. Same again on missionconsciousness.com. We've got a few lifetime memberships still available. That means you're with us for life. But you also get all the benefits of that. So all the free courses, the meditations, the discounted events and courses, etc., as well as meeting all your soul fam. So, please do check that out at missionconsciousness.com. But for myself and Scotty, please look out for some correspondence real soon. And we'll see you once again on Transmissions with AJ. Much love, guys.
Bye, everyone.